Hello, it's November 12th, 2024. I'm 𝗤𝗚𝗛, and here we are, as always, with our monthly Global Heart Gathering. And as always, it's great to see familiar faces. It's great to see new faces. It's great to feel the connections of people who may not be on Zoom with us, but are holding space with us. As we've been, as I say often, since 2018, been cultivating and deepening our relationships in community on a global level for people who share a common vision for our planet, and that we always hold the possibilities for what is possible for human beings on this planet at the highest. I always say I focus on the human beings because it's the human beings who really need the help at the moment on this planet. Yes, the planet needs help, and a lot of creatures who are going extinct need help, but problems pretty much mostly arise from human beings. And what can it do for us to get that right? And that I say that, that maybe our purpose on this planet is not to have dominion over this planet, but to be stewards and servants and caretakers for all creatures on this planet and the planet itself. And that what we're doing here is, what we're doing is we're holding space with each other, for ourselves, and that we've been cultivating since 2018 the practice of fierce compassion and resilience, so that we can feel confidence that we can step into playing a role at this moment on what's unfolding in this planet. We can be bystanders, and there's a lot of bystanders. And there are people who don't have the privilege or the opportunity to play an active role in the healing and development of human beings and this planet. But for those of us who have that privilege and have that opportunity, um, um, who are already doing remarkable work, what we're cultivating here is how can we be more efficient, impactful, in a way where we don't burn ourselves out, and where we can actually be more effective with less time and effort. I always say, who wants more of that? And that we see ourselves as midwives, doulas, for a system that's dying away and a system that's being born. And as we see the effects of what is dying away at this moment, an old system that's holding on for dear life, we can also, and we have to engage with that. It would not be healthy for us to ignore it. We're also holding this idea of holding that vision of what is emerging. And there are many people who come to this gathering who are involved with communities around the world who can see that if the media doesn't present it, because as I always say, it's not sexy for the media to present love and compassion and cooperation and healing and reconciliation, that we can still know that that is true and that is happening. And we're in a the times are accelerating, right? For many of us who feel like we're preparing for this and it's accelerating. And what can we do to maintain our sense of compassion in our hearts, to hold more human beings in our hearts, more beings in our hearts? And how do we take care of ourselves in that? And I want to just hold that context that many of us are struggling in the moment with a world system that is doing a really good job of keeping us dysregulated and keeping us separate and keeping us isolated and turning our brothers and sisters and siblings against each other, and creating this sense of powerlessness and helplessness and hopelessness. World system's doing a great job of that. And that, what I always say, what if the most revolutionary thing we can do, the most rebellious thing we can do now, is to cultivate within ourselves our resilience and deepen our self-care, that we stay resourceful and resilient and durable, and that we commit with fierceness to overcome the obstacles that are keeping even our loved ones, but certainly our adversaries and our strangers, separate, and to create newer, not only deepen and strengthen the alliances we have, but reach out and find alliances in surprising places. And last Thursday we had a gathering where it was really a lot of people getting a chance to just charge what's on their hearts, their fears, their grief, their pain, their anger. And that might happening here as well. We'll see. And of course, as you know, for those of you who know me, I'm thinking about this all the time and trying to process and trying to place it in a certain context. And there is something I want to share with you to explain the context. So I'm getting that kind of grin on my face because those of you who know me, I might take us on a long journey. It might be a gratuitous kind of like detour, but just trust that I'll get back to it. So, and I might have visuals if you feel like you need visuals. So play with me here. I want to help us understand one thing that I think, you know, that I try not to be political or partisan, and that I try not to, that what we're doing is we're trying to stretch out of that. That we as the midwives can't, we're not the ones giving birth. We're not in it, right? We're there to hold a neutral space to facilitate those who are going through some incredibly challenging situations, pain, fear, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to be out of it to be able to be of service for what is unfolding. However, I do feel like there's something that I just want to share that has been on my heart a lot about what's unfolding because of what I said about how the world system is doing a really good job of keeping us in opposition, creating those extreme polarities with each other. And I'd like you to consider, let's see, how do I start this? So I was having a fun chat with ChatGPT. I have to admit, we have a lot of fun together, actually. I'm still a little cautious, but we still have fun. And I was asking ChatGPT some questions. I'd like you to imagine the planet Earth. I'd like you to think of it. And I'm going to start with the side of the Earth that has North America, South America on it. For those of you Europeans, you know, you can think from your perspective as well. And I'd like you to just think about planet Earth. And I have visuals. I can probably, I might put that up in a second, but just visualize in your mind's eye planet Earth. Now zero in on North America. And I asked ChatGPT, if I were in New York City and I were to walk west, where would I end up if I walked 1,000,000 steps? So think about it. If I'm in New York City, imagine where New York City is, and I'm walking west, where would I end up? And they said you would end up somewhere on the Ohio-Indiana border. So I'm going to actually do give you a chance to, if you want to look along with me, please look. Can you see the what's being presented there? Can you see
Yes,
that?
Joe, yes.
That's the Earth. So that's the whole globe, right? And here's the United States, and you can see where New York is. That's that little thing on the coast, on the right coast, that little thing sticking out called Long Island, and that's New York City. And now can you see where it's, I don't know if you see my pointer, but where Ohio, Indiana is.
Yes,
That's 1,000,000 steps. That's 1,000,000 steps. If you want to do Europe, if you're in Amsterdam and you go 1,000,000 steps, you get somewhere in Western Poland. Right? Now let's go back to the world map. Look at Europe. Look at approximately where the Great Lakes are. That's approximately from New York City. That's 1,000,000 steps. Got it? So then I asked ChatGPT, if I were to be in New York City or Amsterdam and I were to walk 1,000,000,000 steps, where would I end up? So think for a moment where you think you'd end up if you were walking 1,000,000,000 steps. And the answer was, if you leave New York City and walk 1,000,000,000 steps, you will circle the planet 19 times. 19 times. So here is 1,000,000 steps, New York to there. To go 1,000,000,000 steps, you've got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 times around the Earth. That's a billion. And I'm bringing this up for a specific reason, is that I don't think we really understand the concept of billion. I mean, because I think many of us, if we don't think about it, many of us think, because we think in tens, like 10 ones is 10, 10 tens are 100, 10 hundreds are 1,000, 10 thousands are 10,000, 10 10,000s are 100,000, 10 100,000s are a million. But a billion is not 10 millions. A billion is 1,000 millions. Right? You maybe think this is silly and and you may like, Joe, all right, I did mathematics or whatever. But I think for me and for many of us, it's hard to get the wiring of just how big a billion is. In fact, I then asked ChatGPT for the fun of it, if I were to walk from New York City to the moon, if I were to walk from New York City to the moon, how many steps would it take to get there? And ChatGPT loved that I was thinking of walking to the moon. But aside from that, the answer was 500 million. So we could walk to the moon in 500 million steps, walk back, and then we've got a billion. So please breathe that in a moment. And I'm bringing that up because I think it's important for us to understand what it means to be a billionaire on this planet right now. Just how much resources they have. And that we can comprehend a million. For some people, earn $1 million a year. If you earn $50,000 a year, in 20 years, you're going to earn $1 million. If you earn $100,000 a year, you're going to do that in 10 years. But the capacity to earn $1 billion is almost impossible. And we're living in a world where there are a lot of billionaires. And are we really understanding just how much power, in a sense, they have, and what that might be doing to the human family, what that might be doing to the planet? So I'm bringing that up to just consider that we're spending so much time fighting identity politics. And we have a right to fight for what or not fight for, but to stand up for and to try to shift the world in a way that's according to our values. But the more we are in that level of engaging with each other, creating more separation, I'm just wondering how much more the billionaires are just getting accomplished what they want to get accomplished. For whatever reason. And who should we be focusing on in terms of if we want to see change happen? So I want to just consider that. What is a billion? And then let's also take it to human beings. We talk about there's 8 billion people on this planet. Do we really know how much? That's a lot of people. But can we comprehend 8 billion? And I looked it up. I looked up and I said, okay, so 8 billion. So what is 8 million? I asked what cities on this planet have 8 million people? New York City, London, Bangkok, Ho Chi Minh City, Chennai, India, Lima, Bogota. Those are cities that have 8 million people in it. The country of the Netherlands has 18 million people, the country of the Netherlands. So in a sense, one city can have 8 million, but do we really understand what 8 billion is? And on some level, for this practice, to think about, there's a lot of people to take care of. And then on that, there's a lot of people to manage relationship with. And I would say the hope and good news in this practice we do when we add the pivot of stranger, love thy stranger, into the equation of loved one and adversary, we don't have to focus just on loved one, to break that polarity, and that our focus is to engage with strangers. Do we really realize what an amazing fertile field of individuals we can be approaching to bridge with? 8 billion. And that's a starting point of where I want us to just, I'm trying to practice that, of what that actually means. To expand that concept, that when we're talking about holding all human beings in our hearts, do we really understand what 8 billion is? And when we think about there's no way we're going to find solutions to our current problems because we tend to still get caught up in us and them. You know, when you still hear people say half the country voted ... that's just inaccurate. It's never half, it's never 50-50. And that if we hold on to those kind of, I would say, superficial ways of seeing that it's either this or that, 50% this, 50% that, we're never going to see. That's stagnation. You're stuck. But the pivot is to see that, to see the nuances. And that we're seeing this play out. People that we defined maybe 30 years ago as loved ones have now become our adversaries because of politics. There are people who are feeling very frightened right now in this country, and I think in what's happening in the Netherlands and other places too, are frightened of the idea of spending the holidays with their families. Can you imagine what that is doing to the human psyche? This a deep fear of being with your family. And I'm not, and again, for those of you who know me, I do not work with needing to find a perpetrator and a victim. That I think is the fundamental cause of the problem. Is that I think if there's anything that we're seeing, you know, there's many you can say it's people are leaning towards the right, people are this, people are that. I think the fundamental illness of our time is that we've all hooked into seeing ourselves on some level as a victim. And I'm not talking about people who have been victimized. That's different. People have been victimized, people have been oppressed. But what we're doing is I feel we're taking on this habit of, in any moment, taking the stance of the victim. And for many of us, when you are in the stance of the victim, you give yourself permission to do anything you want, even if it means harming the people that you consider the perpetrators. And that might seem fierce, and if it does, it is. And again, I'm not saying I'm right. I don't need to be right. I'm just offering an observation. I'm always looking to see what the root cause is of the problem, or to try to find out what the root cause is. Because if we don't understand what the root causes is to our problems, we're never going to solve the problems. We're just going to continue to put Band-Aids on things. We're going to continue to fight for our policies, and hopefully our person will win. And then 4 years later, 8 years later, or even 50 years later, 70 years later, they change. That's all temporary. The root causes of our problem are the internal, false internal polarities we have of needing to be right and make others wrong, of needing to be all good and seeing yourself as all good and everyone else, if they're different, as all bad, and a need to win and make the other the loser. Of course, there's more. But there's a way to address these issues that get to collaboration. Not with everyone, and that's the point of saying with 8 billion people on the planet, there have to be 3 or 4 that you could build alliances with, right? I mean, that's the way I would, just statistically. And that if every person on this planet committed, imagine if that became like a global thing, that it was mandatory that every citizen on this planet had to go out and by the end of this year, cultivate an alliance with someone they didn't know yesterday. A true alliance. Just imagine how that would shift everything on the planet. And some people might take short bridges. They might just take their neighbor. Some people might take really long bridges, someone who's in the opposing party or someone in a country they didn't even know the name of that country until they looked it up. But these are things I'm busy with, and I'm thinking is to really understand that part of it is really getting a sense of what 1 billion really means from an economic perspective. The fact that if you think about that, that in this presidential campaign in the US, that one party raised $1 billion to campaign, one party in 2 months or something like that. That's in 3 months. It's remarkable. But to consider, where are we in our capacity to engage in the world issues when, first of all, $1 billion have to be raised, and not to consider how many people are starving on this planet who could use those $1 billion, and how big a billion is. It's not just a few million. So I'm curious if anyone, before we go into a practice, if anybody wants to, I know I shared a lot. If anyone would like to unmute and share a perspective or an insight on this, or what's on your heart.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you for creating this space today. I really resonate with your topic quite a bit, actually. As you know, I dabble a lot in physics and the unknown, and I love expanding my viewpoint, my perspective. You know, when I think of the physical universe, I look at I've had experiences at 45,000 feet in the jet, looking out the front window, which is the only window of a jet that is not tinted. And so you're able to fully see what's actually there. And you're above 2/3 of Earth's atmosphere. I recall a day when I took a young co-pilot for the first time up there at night, and I said, watch this. I turned off all the cockpit lights, darked it out, and I said, sit there and don't say anything, just look for 5 minutes. And at the end of 5 minutes, he said, oh my God, Morgan, I didn't know there were clouds at 45,000 feet. And I just smiled and I said, there are no clouds at 45,000 feet. Those are stars. That is the Milky Way. So it's like a glimpse, you know, you can't fathom billions, because when we think of what we know about our universe and the number of stars out there, if you think of every grain of sand on this planet, that including under the oceans, all beach, everything, each grain of sand represents 1 billion stars. When we shift gears into some of the more pressing issues that are on everyone's mind, I feel like I have just an incredible wealth of experience, because for most of my career, billionaires, you know, I might have half the world's wealth or GDP with me, and I could open a conversation at any time. And I did. I took advantage of that. And it's interesting because there are so many forces at work that I'm aware of right now, that what we need to do, honestly, is rather than identify an in-group or an out-group, if we are simply open and aware of everyone's presence and look at them almost with, I wonder if I was able to connect at that emotional level and feel it, I wonder what I would learn about myself in the process.
Right.
And even the billionaires that I have literally in another business fired a billionaire, and you know, one of his neighbors that I know quite well called me up and said, oh my God, he said, I can't believe you did that. But a month and a half later, I get a text and an email with a full apology from his billionaire.
Right.
And his request to, for me to come back and work with him. And interestingly, Joe, I mentioned that, to this other CEO, and he said, I've known this individual for 20 years. Not once have I ever heard him apologize for anything.
Yeah, thank you. So you don't know Morgan. Morgan's become a dear friend. Morgan is one of my new heroes in the world. He was a TEDx talker in the same cohort. He and his service dog Donzi. If you want to see it, what's the name of your TEDx talk? What's the name of your TEDx talk? Real quick, Morgan.
Okay. The whole
Just the name.
idea,
Just
yeah,
the name. No,
it's
just the title. Just the title.
Why the Unspoken Matters.
He talks about his experience. I recommend you watch it. I would say Morgan is one of the most kind-hearted people I've ever met, and has a brain that is just not human. It's superhuman. But thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for your service. Yesterday was Veterans Day, so just offering that. And he is a pilot. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Claudine, did you want to say something? Did you want to say something? No. Anybody else want to say anything before we do our practice?
I just put something in the chat, Joe, that I had read this morning. So I've been really thinking about billions. It's odd. And then that's your theme about 4 billionaires who gave $500 million to the Trump campaign, eclipsing, I think it was like 350 million that they raised. So just like the numbers and the influence I love this image of mapping out steps with ChatGPT. That is weird and wonderful. I don't know. Thank you.
Been known for being weird
You
and
got my
wonderful.
attention. Yes.
Okay. No, and that was my point, is that are we really aware of how much power they have, they've had, they have, and they are going to have? And are we really directing our priorities in the right place of how we need, if we want to see changes happening, where should that be? Thanks. Anybody else before we do our practice? Really good to see you.
I did see a great video about with somebody counting grains of rice to show the difference between some of these numbers, and you can visualize it very well with grains of rice. So use ChatGPT to search the Googles to find it if you're interested. I am struggling because I want to honor my values, and I feel like there was a broken social contract. And so I'm really struggling with, this idea of the high road, or the, honor, confronting with kindness, which, kindness is one of my core values. And I'm really struggling to be curious. I'm really struggling to engage in a way that I value, because I feel like that's really only possible in a social, when everyone sort of accepts the social contract, and that some have opted out. And then I'm left with either not honoring my values or honoring my values with someone who doesn't respect them in return. And that's sort of where I'm stuck. I mean, it has nothing to do with billions, but that's what's on my heart at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that, and it's okay to be stuck. Things are evolving so quickly. It's in the stuck where if you can stay with it and be in the uncomfortable of it, sit with it, that's where alchemy happens. That's where the new solutions can emerge. That's where it's the avoiding of the uncomfortable that we stay. That's where we really stay stuck. So if you're feeling stuck, be in the stuck and explore, and be in the questioning and again, I would say that, for me, what I have to hold is that I see it on both sides, the extreme left and the extreme right, that agreement, or I forget the word you use, has
Social
been broken.
contract.
The
Yeah.
social contract has been broken. That breaks it for me, that I'm seeing it in various communities and various, as they would say, factions. And that's why, to me, the practice is for us, if we don't want to be in those extremes, in a sense, is how do we at least start now with those, let that go, right? When in respectful confrontation or fierce civility, when people ask, I don't, do I have to really confront them? And I say, you've got to use wisdom to know that it may not be a smart moment to engage with them in this moment. And that what's always most important in any of these encounters to try to deepen relationship or bring about healing and reconciliation or new solutions or transformation is you have to feel safe. And if you're not feeling safe, then the answer to should I engage with them is no. And that's not a judgment thing. It's just basic. It's like if you're walking on the Grand Canyon and you're walking at the edge of the cliff and you say, should I walk this direction, which means out into the abyss, you just come to the conclusion that's not safe. So you turn, you go a different direction. So that's a starting point. Doesn't mean you end there, but that's the resilience piece. And that's this practice. Who can we hold in our hearts that we feel that on some level we can engage with, or at least love from a distance? And and get to a point where we can say for all of those on either sides to say, fundamental respectful confrontation is I feel like we had a social contract of how we engage with each other. To me, it feels like it's been betrayed, and it causes me a lot of fear and anxiety and hopelessness. And what I need is to heal that within myself and with others and with the human family and the planet. Are you willing to do that with me? And if their answer is no, then you have your answer.
So Joe, may I
Thank you, Paula. Yeah. Yes.
quickly add, canvassing outside of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, talking to a man who lived on top of his property, which was all apple trees. And he came out. I didn't expect him to. And I was with a lawyer, and the two of us engaged. And then at one point, this very nice man, I liked him. I said, he said to me, I'm voting for Trump. And I said, and what about your children? And he said, that's none of my business. And so he drew the line. And then when we began to explore, he stepped back from his front door one step, and he said, let's agree to disagree. So it was a very human encounter. It was 20 minutes, and I actually liked him, but there was no way to connect. I mean, we almost could have connected,
Right.
but not through the issues.
Right. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for doing that work. Thank you. It says a lot about who you are, being so active. And there's a lot of people in our circle who come to these gatherings who've done a lot of beautiful work like that, honorable work like that. And like I said, that's a starting point. That's, that to be able to at least, because in a sense, what you just did on some level is, and I'm not saying directly, but if you look at our scheme of loved one, stranger, adversary, is that someone who may have been an adversary, you've just put into the stranger column. And you're not loved ones, but at least you've lessened your adversary column, and you've at least placed them in a loving way into your strangers. So let's agree to disagree. We're never going to see each other again, and let's just be peaceful with each other, and we've done our job. The next step is, I think that let's agree to disagree is part of the problem, ultimately, why we're not seeing new solutions. Because in essence, and I'm not saying you do this, Barbara, I'm just because in that circumstance, it was correct, perhaps, or I would say that was correct based on the circumstances. But to say, let's agree to disagree is basically saying that my need to be right is more important than coming up with new solutions.
Mm.
My need to be right is more important than coming up with healing and reconciliation. And again, I'm not saying that is right or wrong, and I'm not saying that from a place of judgment, just from basic an observation that if you're saying let's agree to disagree, you're saying that it's really important that I am right and you think you're right. And basically what you're saying is I am not willing with you to go through the really messy, uncomfortable process of seeing maybe I'm not totally right and maybe you're not totally wrong. And if we don't do that, we're never going to see new solutions. But at this moment, if in that circumstance, it was appropriate. There was no point in you like going through his door and saying, make me a cup of tea. I'm staying until we get through this. That just doesn't make sense. But there are people with whom that does make sense. And there are civil servants, and there are political parties, and there are organizations where it does make sense. That regardless of how uncomfortable it is and how frightening it might even be, that if we want to see peace, lasting peace and healing and reconciliation and new solutions, then we have to be willing to let go of that need to be right, all right. And again, that makes sense logically, but it's putting it into practice is a lot harder. Lou?
I just want to say, I think the point that you're making about billionaires and about redirecting our focus on what are the issues rather than who's on which side of the table has been helpful to me to hear again. I participated in some Braver Angels workshops where they also took sides and said, this is what we think and this is what we think, and we found commonalities. And I think that it's looking for those commonalities and things we can work on changing that matters.
Thank you. All right, so let's do our,
Let me do
okay.
a short one.
Right.
Because I want to say there is hope. There, I belong to a meditation group on Wednesdays that is called Mindful Feds, and it's for federal government employees. And typically we are 80, 90, never more than that. It's the whole government. The day after the election, we were 400.
Yeah.
So more people are meditating. That's good.
Yay, meditation. All right, let's do our practice, and then we might have some more things we want to share. And thank you, Henk and Mika, for listening in terms of holding space for what's happening in the US, there in the Netherlands. But there's a lot happening in the Netherlands at the moment too, where people are really in an incredibly strong fear place, where they are very quickly finding their victims and their perpetrators. Yeah. So as always, we sit in a way where our spine is straight without being rigid, power sit. Elongating your spine, relaxing your jaw, relax your shoulders, relax your belly. Bring your attention to your core and your lower belly, your center. And if you want to investigate where it is, it's approximately the width of 3 fingers below your navel and 1/3 of the way into the body from the front of the body. Placing your full attention on that spot, your center of gravity, creativity, impulse, personal power, and awareness. And in this practice, we're cultivating resilience and also our capacity to listen in a deeper way. That goes beyond just what our ears and our eyes perceive, but to be able to listen in a way that reads into someone and understands the deeper implications of who they are and how they're communicating. And that comes from your center. It's a center of listening from awareness and perception. From your center, become aware of your contact points, the parts of your body that are connecting with what you're sitting on and the ground. And from those points, feeling the connection with the ground and what you're sitting on, feeling the stability under you. And the more you can feel that stability, the more you can allow yourself to be held. You don't have to hold yourself up. Let yourself be held. And taking this time with this practice to come more into bring your awareness into the present moment and your connection with all that you are engaging with, first starting with yourself. So from your center, become aware of your physical body. Just noticing in this moment without judgment, no need to change anything. Simply doing an inventory, learning the vocabulary of the body, the wisdom of the body. Remembering in this practice that all feelings are welcome. If energy wants to move through your system, let it. And from your center, become aware of your emotional body. What emotions are you present to? Remember, all we're doing is listening. What wisdom, what information are your emotions giving you in this moment? From your center, become aware of your thoughts, your mental body. Don't attach to the thoughts, observe the thoughts. What are the quality of the thoughts? Maintaining a connection with your core, your foundation of the practice, your personal power. Now bringing awareness to the middle of your chest, where your heart center is, your heart power, compassion, respect, dignity, connection, your highest values. From your center and from your heart, become aware of the part of you that is connected to something larger than yourself. And from that part of you, connecting with your heart and with your core, become aware of what your connection is in this moment to something larger than yourself. And that could be spirit, something spiritual. It could be the universe. It could be the total conglomeration of atoms throughout the universe, humanity. And as you maintain this connection with yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, from your heart and from your core, allow that to just spread out in all directions from your heart and your core, filling your personal space out to your personal boundaries, activating your sense of personal space in all directions, behind you as well as in front of you, above you. And with this awareness of self in this present moment, from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. From your center and from your heart, maintaining a connection with yourself, from your center and from your heart, become aware of your surroundings, the room you're in, the space you're in. Grateful for the privilege of having this space to be in, to be able to do this practice. Placing yourself in a context. My surroundings are coming in through sound. And with awareness of self and surroundings from your center and from your heart, take a deep breath in. Stretching your capacity to hold more beings in your heart and cultivate your resilience. Now maintaining your connection with self and surroundings. But now from your center and from your heart, become aware of those in this meditation circle, those who are joining us online, those part of this global community who are joining us in their hearts. And from your center and from your heart, connecting with those in this meditation circle, considering how you're impacting others and how they're impacting you. And with gratitude in your heart for these beings, from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. and stretching our capacity, our heart's capacity, like we're doing conditioning training or athletics. We want to stretch the capacity of our heart to hold more beings without it harming us or burning us out. Maintaining your connection to self, surroundings, and those in this meditation circle. Now from your center and from your heart, become aware of all human beings, all 8 billion of them. Starting with those human beings you would label loved ones. And just be surprised who arises in your heart when you hear loved ones. What faces do you see or groups of people? How many loved ones can you hold in your heart right now? And in your mind's eye, standing or sitting face to face with them, honoring them, getting a number of how many, just arbitrarily, how many people that are in your loved ones list. Could be 10, could be 1,000. And in this moment, as you are connecting with them from your center and from your heart, considering how precious that is. If you now know the number of 8 billion, how precious it is that these people are in your loved ones. How precious. And that might awaken in you a deeper desire to deepen those relationships. And from your center and from your heart, become aware of those human beings you would label adversary. And who arises in your heart? Surprise yourself. Who pops up? It's no judgment. Simply notice. This is your truth in this moment. How many faces do you see? How many groups of people? How many can you hold in your heart right now? How does that influence you to the idea of holding them in your heart? Do you need to take a distance from them? All is fine. Just to consider who is on your list of adversaries in this moment. How many? And from your center and from your heart, with honor and respect, as you connect with them, to just consider how big of a bridge at this moment is there if I were to actually consider engaging with them. You don't need to, just notice. And how many are that? It could be 10, it could be 1,000, who knows? And now from your center and from your heart, become aware of those human beings you would label stranger. And can you actually recall people that see faces of real people that you might call stranger? They could be neighbors, they could be people you see in the supermarket, people you pass at work but don't know, people you see in newspapers or on the news, people you imagine in countries, again, that you have no idea what even language they speak in that country. And how many strangers can you hold in your heart right now? And just imagine that the number of strangers is like looking out at the ocean. And you might be able to take your little glass and just drink one little cup of that ocean as your capacity for strangers today. And to consider what are the lengths of the bridges with them. And as you engage now with loved ones, strangers, and adversaries, considering the malleable, how malleable that is, considering how rigid your labels are of loved one, stranger, and adversary. And to just consider that they are porous, that there's a capacity to soften all of them. You don't have to do anything, but just to know that any label you have of someone has the capacity to be softened. and to shift. And imagining them as you engage with them, as you soften your heart to them, loved ones, strangers, and adversary, that just instantly softens their heart. The adversaries, the strangers, the loved ones. And that we understand what the number billion means. And that whether we like it or not, we're all in this together. Whether we like it or not. So as you take a deep breath now, imagine the entire human family, the global heart, taking a breath together to ease into and soften that heart. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Noticing that softening of the heart, how that influences all creatures on this planet. How that delights Mother Earth, the planet itself. And with all of that, take that now with deep gratitude. Allow all human beings to flow into your heart. And why not have the planet flow into your heart and all creatures as well? And with that all in your heart, engaging now again with those in this meditation circle. And just with a moment of gratitude and honoring of each person who commits to these practices, because within you there is a deep desire to want to see solutions in a peaceful way. It's heroic. So honoring each other and allow all, those in this meditation circle to flow into your heart as you bring your awareness back to your surroundings, anchoring it back into your lived experience, allowing your surroundings to flow into your heart as you bring it back to yourself. And as always, probably the most critical and most difficult perhaps practice is to now, from your heart and your center, connect with yourself and soften all the rigidity in how you connect with yourself and view yourself and engage with yourself. To open to more heart connection, even with yourself. Opening the possibility for hope. Noticing the effects of this practice, allow it to flow into every cell of your being, enlivening every cell of your being, flowing into your organs as a way to nurture your organs, bring balance to your organ systems, letting it seep into your nervous system as a way to remember this, so you can walk this into the world. And let's take one final breath to close our practice. In through your nose, out through your mouth. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes. Look around the circle, stretch your body, shake your body a little bit. Okay, so we did our we started with our motivation. We did our practice, and there's a few minutes left. Just very briefly, if you just want to say a few words and anything that came up for you in the practice or anything you want to share to feel complete with our gathering for today. Maybe one word.
You,
Type it or speak it.
thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Hey, Barbara, did you check with Claudine about the recording?
Not yet.
For those people who want to watch the recording, the first part of the recording of Thursday's Global Heart Practice, you can find it on YouTube. And I think Claudia's going to put the link. Paul, it's great to see you. Let's speak. Let's talk. Yeah? Always good to see you. Any other last words?
Thank you, Joe.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So great to connect with you.
Yeah.
When you get a chance, let's talk. I love this direction. So important. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Callie, it's good to have you join in. Thank you. Where are you calling in from?
I'm in Connecticut.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So We always end with a dedication. May the benefits of this practice that we come together, let's direct that towards those who are in deep fear and really struggling and aren't seeing a way back to, or out of balance. May this be the balm and the soothing that they need at this moment to help them come back to themselves. And may this practice continue to soften the hearts of all of us, to remember who we are at our best and to find our way to connect in with other people at their best, for the sake of lasting peace and healing and reconciliation and new solutions. And I'm grateful for you all. So as always, you can, if you're not on our mailing list, you can get on our mailing list. Claudine's going to put the link in to get updates on what we're doing. There's many different ways you can support us, to spread the word about this event. Come on every month. It's always the second Tuesday of the month, where you could always purchase your Occupy Here t-shirt. It's a big heart that says Occupy Here on it, or your mug. That's, if you look on the joeweston.com website, you can see that. The holidays are coming, and I would say that a good gift for the holidays right now is the book Fierce Civility and Mastering Respectful Confrontation. In fact, if you send it now, you could tell your family, you must read it before we get together for turkey. That's a strategy.
Joe-
And stay in touch. Yeah.
Sorry, I just saw that donations link come up. Is that the best way to give Donna our offering for these
Yeah.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't ask for money, but we do. There is a donations link, and that goes to the Fierce Civility Project, which is a nonprofit. And that money is used for creating events like this and other ways to spread this message. Thank you, Louise, for naming that.
I think
All
that's
right, everyone.
important right now because we're going to need more of these. And I think the reciprocity of what we're receiving is even more important to support the work. Yeah. So that's
Thank you.
my
Thank you.
commitment.
For loving me. I love that, and loving this. I appreciate it. All right, thank you all, and stay in touch, and hopefully see you next month.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye bye. Thank you all.